it's a great rivalry. I mean, you're talking about two of the greatest schools in college football in athletics. I mean, there's I don't think there are any better. When you look at the whole package of it, and I mean, I know it's a huge rivalry, for everybody involved in it. It's just that's what it is. It's Michigan. It's Notre Dame. That's what it is.
Was it weird when you went from Michigan to Notre
Yeah,
Dame?
it was hard. I can tell you that was hard. Because it was Michigan, and you know, I can honestly say I don't know if I really even knew what a big rivalry that was. I never grew up being a Notre Dame fan. I didn't grow up. I'm a Lutheran. I'm not Catholic. All that kind of thing. And then when you do that decision based on family and all that kind of thing, once you've made the decision, you kind of go, whoa. I don't know. And but I had a great 8 years there. And I got to see my family through school, and my daughter in college there. So that made it a really really good deal.
Can you assess the early goings of that game, how your defense played, and then how you adjusted and reacted to what they were doing?
Well, the thing that happened is what you kind of worried about happening when you had so many guys that hadn't played a lot of football. You could probably got the toughest scenario you could get because it was a very fast pace. They were switching personnel groups in and out without us really being able to decide to see what they were. And you've got defenses that you're playing for certain personnel groups that you had against a different group, and this young group needs to see everything. Then it goes down to when a team hurries like that and speeds up the pace. Communication is everything, and that's something we've been harping on with a young group of guys and young linebackers that haven't played a lot. The communication is the first thing when it all happens. It goes, and then they said when they got done and that drive, there was a number of things that we weren't aligned correctly on, and we're not good enough to do that. We're not good enough to not be perfect at what we're doing. And once they came off to the side and we settled them down, and we just said, hey, listen, there's a whole ball game ahead of us. If we get these things corrected, we'll be fine. And then we get the interception and the momentum picked back up again, but that's what happened. I mean, the pace, and for some of them, it could have been a slow pace, and that would have been fast. So that kind of a pace with what happened is why a lot of that happened.
Do you have a favorite story from being on both sides of this rivalry? Anything any particular game that stands out?
I don't have any game story, but I will tell you this: the players that I had when I was at Notre Dame, when my daughter would come up, it was like 100 yards from the softball field to the practice field where I had the defensive line. And the game would be going on, and they would know I was listening to see if number 25 was going to get a hit or not. So finally, after a while, the defensive lineman would say, Coach, let's just stop for a second and see if she gets a hit or not. And then when she'd get a hit, it'd be over the loudspeaker. They'd say, okay, you're going to have a really good practice now. Let's go. That was the greatest part about that, to be there with your daughter on a softball scholarship and her have the career she had there. You got to go to every game. You got to be right there, and then during practices, you could hear everything. So that was probably as far as game wise, no.
Did the Irons boys give you some grief, both of them back and forth?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm really, Jarrett was our captain on the Rose Bowl team, and I had recruited Grant and coached him, and so that family, I'm fortunate enough to be very close to that family. Yeah, that's a wonderful family, and that's really what college football is all about. That's why you always talk about recruiting. When you get those relationships and you have young men like the Irons family, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, to see them go all the way through what they went through, and then to know that you had a little bit of a small part to do with that. That's what it makes it special.
Brady said that he wasn't overly happy with the defensive line.
Neither was I.
What stuck out most to you that you didn't like about
Well,
that?
well, I wouldn't just single out the defensive line. I know when we looked at that tape, I knew what I would see, and that is not totally how we want to play defense. The first thing, our whole thing is stopping the run, and and some of those runs were me. I'm calling pressures to try to get after the quarterback, and he runs a draw, and we didn't fit our gaps right. That kind of thing will happen, but others they weren't, and we have to be able to stop the run. And anytime a team runs the football on your defense, you can't have a great day. That's just the way it'll always be here. And so I think a lot of our fits, our backers fitting, our defensive line knocking them back, playing real physical every snap, all those things have to improve. The one positive thing one of the very positive things in the entire game, though, was we kept the ball inside and in front for the most part. And that's what we really talked about. We can't allow a big play, a home run play. And that quarterback is a big-time quarterback, and that wide receiver is a great wide receiver. So our guys did keep the ball inside and in front, and so we were allowed to get more guys on the tackles. Well, I think they're both very good quarterbacks. The one thing that you got to understand with Reese is he was the starting quarterback the last 4 games, and they won all 4. And then he goes in this game and a half and throws for 300 some yards or whatever, So obviously he's a guy that when he goes in ball games, he does a great job, and I think both of them are very talented. I think, you wouldn't be at a school like Michigan or Notre Dame if you didn't have talent. So I think they both have good arms. I think they both appear to be very, very intelligent, and they both have a great wide receiver. So I think that makes you a quarterback.
Coach, if you get the defensive line up to where you want it to be, are you going to be blitzing as much as you did in that short second half?
It depends if a team's going to throw as much as they threw. It all depends on what the team does. We'll never, we won't sit back and play zone coverage until we have the ability to get a rush with a 4-man front. And that comes from technique, that comes from a lot of things. But it's not fair to that secondary, and it's not fair to that underneath coverage to let a quarterback like that has the arm he has hold it. And so anytime if we get in a situation like that, we'll always try to do what's best for the defense. And I'm not going to say I'm a guy that's going to go out and blitz every down, but when it dictates it, then I think you have to. Yeah, definitely. He has to play better. He's got to. One of the things we addressed is we had too many players in that defense that did not get production. We have a big chart up in our hallway that you get points for tackles, for assists, for caused fumbles, all those kind of things, and then you also get minus points for missed assignments, missed tackles, that kind of thing. And on our defense, we had too many guys that didn't have a lot of points. And you had one guy that had 47 points, Jordan Kovacs, so we've got to get more guys getting production. And Craig's one of those guys that he's got to, we got to get more out of him, and I think he knows that. And he understands. He saw the film himself. He understands that he's a better football player than that.
People mention Kovacs is a nice story, came without a scholarship, that sort of thing. But talk about what makes him great.
He's a football player. He's a Michigan football player. If you had a team of 8 of those, I'm not going to say 11, 8 of those, you might sit in a lawn chair and watch the game. This guy, that hit that he came on one of the pressures, you guys all saw the picture probably. It was what you tell and what you coach. Put your face right through his chest, wrap him up, eyes up, and he put his helmet right through the football. Thing that people didn't see on that is he was in the end zone almost the same time as Heron after he had caused a fumble and made the hit. That's what Michigan defense is about. The same thing happened that was a positive. Jake Ryan on his tipped, and he hit the ground after he tipped it. He was the first guy down there next to Heron. And that's what that's what we've been talking about. That's a great sign. Now we got to keep doing that all the way through a ball game.
How much do you think having the night game would help recruiting, if any?
Well, I don't know. Right now recruiting is not something that we think a great deal about. Right now it's this game, and if you're a young football player that has an interest in Michigan, it doesn't get any better than this. But right now we're more into this game rather than worrying about that.
Here in just circumstances, he was in the right place at the right time, or was he doing things to put himself
Doing things, he was doing things. He can run. He was where he was supposed to be. He executed the defenses, and good things happen. And thank goodness he's fast. He never looks like he's running that fast, but there's not many people catching him. So.
Before the season, Kovac said in this new scheme, he's not going to get as many tackles as he did last year. It's going to be the linebackers, things funneling to them. He led the team in tackles on Saturday. At what point is that going to stop? And
I hope soon. I hope soon. I mean, really, you hit it right on the head. You're right. I mean, when your safety is making a lot of tackles, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. It's a good thing we have Jordan Kovacs, but that's not a good thing. And that happened a number of times where if a backer would have been where he was supposed to be, he would have made that tackle. The great news though was Jordan was where he was supposed to be, and I think at times when I've watched, he's been up in there too far because he's been trying to make it, and all of a sudden if you miss a tackle, it's gone. And that was what was the good thing about this game.
Coach, having an experienced guy like Jordan back there, does he let you do more with what you want to do on defense?
Well, it allows you to call it without wincing. I mean, no, I have great confidence. I have confidence in the entire defense. I wasn't pleased with our performance. I was pleased with the win. I was pleased with the turnover margin. But as a defense, I can't say I was pleased because I really, really believe in my heart we can be much, much better than this, and we have to be. I mean, that's the bottom line. We have to play better defense than what we did.
How do you defend Floyd?
Well, you better make sure, number one, that you're playing with great technique on him. I mean, if you don't, in the back end, if you don't play with perfect technique or great technique, you're going to get exposed. I think the second thing is you can't allow the quarterback all day to throw to him, and I think you have to give him a number of different coverages so he doesn't know all the time what you're getting.
Coach, do you plan on lining one of your corners up against him all game?
No.
Brady talks about being able to field guys out there, and Kovacs obviously. Do you think Troy was kind of on pace for that kind of thing, where and has he shown up?
Yeah, he made some very physical hits on those bubble screens, which that was great to see, and I'd love to see him play that whole game, and just he needed that. That's the thing. The game got called and everything like that. I would have loved to have that thing go 4 quarters. We needed it. We need every second of playing under pressure that we can get. But I'm glad that we got out of there like we did, and we got a victory, and now we got to just improve more.
Your son Brian made the 53 roster?
Yes, he did. Yep.
Is that his first time?
He was active the last 6 games last year, but he was on the practice squad the beginning part of the year last year. So this is a big year. There's no practice squad for him. He had a great offseason. He started all 4 games in the preseason, and so it was a real good. He's a hard worker, and he's done everything. He's moved. He was a defensive lineman his entire life. In fact, when he made the switch from defense to offense, I was the one that said you might want to think about doing that, and he looked at me like I was a traitor because all the time at our supper table, I'd always say if a guy can't play defense, he can always go to offense, And so when I said that to him, he looked at me like, you did this to me, And so I reminded him the other night. I said, "Boy, I'm glad you made it because I would have really felt bad if you wouldn't have."
Was Troy able to go full go in practice today?
Uh-huh.
Or will you lobby to keep him off the special teams?
No, I won't. Honestly, Angelique, I will not. Special teams play a huge, huge part in our defense. If you saw where we started on defense after a number of those kickoffs, I mean, there's three equal parts in this thing. And I've seen too many coaches that will say, I got to have that guy. Okay, fine. Then put another guy that doesn't do as well, and you see how fast that ball comes back. I mean, we really believe in that here.
Coach, what set do you like to have the headset on when you guys are on, when the defense is on the field? What type of things do you guys talk about?
Coach,
When Hoke has the headset on,
he doesn't have it on, does he?
he said he likes it on when the defense is on the field.
I don't even know. I tell you what, to be honest, he probably can hear everything I'm saying without the headsets on. So I don't know, but Brady is tremendous on the sideline. After that first drive, I mean, because he's a great defensive coach, and he was over there saying the same things I was saying to those guys, and we were right. And a lot of head coaches now, they might not have reacted like he did, and that pays dividends, because we trust these guys. We believe that they're going to try as hard as they can, and now we got to get their technique better. We got to get a lot of things better as coaches, but they're going to try it and they're going to do it. Just like today's practice, there was a whole bunch of mistakes of things, that adjustments and stuff like that. But you know what? They went hard, and we'll get those corrected, and we just got to keep eliminating those mistakes.